Before you scroll past this, stop for a second because what you are about to witness is not just an apology. It is the exact moment everything changed between Wu Lei and Zhao Lusi. And if you stay with the story until the very end, you're going to uncover why one unexpected sighting turned into a moment that no one could ignore. So subscribe right now and stay with every second because this story unfolds in a way that will stay with you long after it ends. It did not begin with the apology. It began with a moment no one was supposed to notice. A quiet evening. A normal setting. Nothing that looked unusual at first glance. Until someone saw something that did not fit. Wu Lei was not alone. There was someone with him. Not standing too close. Not doing anything dramatic. Just present in a way that immediately raised questions. The image spread faster than anyone could control. Not because it was clear, but because it was unclear. And uncertainty creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. And attention creates a story before the truth has a chance to catch up. Within hours, everything changed. Messages. Comments. Speculation. People trying to connect pieces that were never fully visible. And in the center of it all was Zhao Lusi. Not because she was there, but because her name was connected to his in a way that made everything feel personal. She did not respond immediately. Not publicly. Not privately in a way anyone could see. And that silence became louder than anything else. Because when something like this happens, people expect a reaction. They wait for it. They look for it. They try to read meaning into the absence of it. Wu Lei knew it would not stay quiet. He knew it would reach her. Not because someone told him, but because that is how these moments work. They do not stay contained. They move. They grow. They become something bigger than the moment itself. The apology did not come instantly. Not rushed. Not forced. But deliberate. Because saying something like that requires more than words. It requires understanding what those words mean. When he finally spoke, it was not in front of a crowd. Not in a way that felt staged. It was direct. Clear. And honest in a way that surprised people. He said he was sorry. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that carried weight. The kind of weight that does not need emphasis. He explained that what was seen was not what people believed. But he did not dismiss it either. He did not deny the moment. He acknowledged it. And that made the apology real. Because reality is not about avoiding what happened. It is about facing it. Zhao Lusi listened, not reacting immediately, not interrupting. Because sometimes the most important part of an apology is not the words. It is the space that follows them. The moment where everything settles. Where meaning becomes clear. She looked at him. Not with anger. Not with disbelief. But with something more complex. Something that could not be reduced to a single emotion. She asked him one question. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just real. She asked if it mattered. Not the situation. Not what people were saying, but whether what they had still mattered. And that question changed everything, because it moved the focus away from what was seen to what was real. Wu Lei did not hesitate this time. He told her it did matter, not because of what people expected, but because of what they had built, because of the connection that existed beyond what anyone else could see. And that was when the tension shifted. Not completely, but enough. Enough to turn the moment from conflict into something else. Something closer to understanding. The conversation did not end there. It moved slowly, naturally, through everything that had been left unsaid. Through doubts. Through expectations. Through the space between what people assume and what actually exists. And in that space, something became clear. This was not just about one moment. It was about trust. The kind that is not broken easily, but once questioned, cannot be ignored. Zhao Lusi did not give an immediate answer. Not because she did not know what to say, but because she understood something important. Trust is not something you decide in a single moment. It is something you feel over time. And in that moment, she was still feeling it. Days passed. The noise outside did not stop, but it became less important. Because what mattered was no longer happening in public. It was happening between them, quietly, without an audience, without pressure. And that is where the real story unfolded. Wu Lei remained consistent,
Not trying to prove something.
not over-explaining, just present, just steady. And sometimes consistency says more than any apology ever could. Zhao Lusi watched,
Not judging.
not holding on to the moment, but observing what came after it. Because what comes after is what defines everything. The final moment did not come with a dramatic resolution. It did not come with a public announcement. It came quietly, through understanding, through the realization that one moment does not define everything, but it reveals what needs to be seen. And that is where the story settles. Not with certainty, not with a perfect ending, but with something more real. Two people choosing to face what happened, and deciding what it means moving forward. And now the only question that remains is this. When someone apologizes, and the truth is not as simple as it seems, do you hold on to what you saw? Or do you trust what you feel? If this story made you feel every moment, and you want more stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who understands that sometimes the most important answers are not found in what we see, they are found in what we choose to believe. The days that followed did not feel like resolution at first. They felt like distance. Not physical distance, but emotional space that neither of them tried to rush. The world outside continued talking. Every angle of that moment was replayed and reinterpreted. Every silence was filled with assumptions. But inside that silence, something different was forming. Something slower. Something quieter. Something real. Wu Lei did not try to correct the noise anymore. He understood that explanations given too early only feed confusion. So, he stopped chasing control over the narrative, and focused instead on what was directly in front of him, the truth of the present moment. Zhao Lusi, on the other hand, remained observant. She did not withdraw. She did not confront. She simply watched how time treated what had happened. Because time has a way of revealing intention more clearly than words ever can. And in that stretch of quiet days, something subtle began to change.
Not in what they said.
But in how they moved around each other. There was no avoidance. There was no tension pretending to be calm. There was only awareness. A steady recognition that something important had been disturbed. And something important was trying to repair itself. One afternoon changed everything again. It was not planned. It never is in moments like this. They crossed paths in a place that felt ordinary. A space with no expectation attached to it. No audience waiting. No pressure shaping their behavior. Just a normal setting that suddenly felt heavier than usual. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Not because there was nothing to say, but because everything had already been said in fragments over the days before. Wu Lei looked at her differently this time. Not searching for forgiveness. Not trying to explain again. But standing in acceptance of whatever she felt. Zhao Lusi noticed that shift immediately. Because it was no longer about convincing. It was about being understood without effort. She finally broke the silence. Not with a statement, but with honesty that did not need decoration. She said she had thought about everything. Not only the moment that started it all, but everything that followed it. The reactions, the silence, the meaning people built around it. And then she paused, not because she was unsure, but because what came next mattered. She said she understood now that not everything seen by others defines reality. And not everything quiet means absence. Wu Lei did not interrupt. He simply listened. Because sometimes understanding only arrives when words are allowed to finish completely. Then she added something that changed the weight of everything again. She said trust was not lost in one moment. And therefore it would not return in one moment either. It would return in patterns. In consistency. In time. Wu Lei nodded. Not in relief, but in acceptance. Because he understood that this was not a conclusion. It was a direction. From that day forward, nothing became instantly perfect. There was no dramatic shift that rewrote everything overnight. But there was something more meaningful.
Stability.
the kind that builds quietly without announcing itself. They began to communicate differently, less about defending the past, more about understanding the present, less about what was misunderstood, more about what still remained untouched by misunderstanding. And slowly the noise outside began to lose its grip, not because people stopped talking, but because the center of the story was no longer in their hands. It was back where it belonged.
Between them.
One evening later, in the quiet of an ordinary moment, Zhao Lusi looked at Wu Lei again, this time without searching for answers. And Wu Lei met her gaze without trying to prove anything. There was no final statement, no dramatic closure, no perfect ending, only a shared understanding that some moments do not end stories. They refine them, and what once felt like disruption had now become clarity. Not everything was resolved, but everything that mattered was now seen differently. And sometimes that is enough to change the direction of everything that follows. Because in the end, what remains is not the moment that started it all, but the way two people choose to stand after it. Quietly, steadily, and with a new understanding that truth is not always what is seen first, but what survives after everything else fades.